We are now broadcasting and recording.
Has the meeting started?
Yes.
Well, my thing says that your meeting will start soon, so if there's a button they gotta click it.
I have guests joining us, or attendees.
They're sitting there and say, your meeting will start soon.
I have Frank in the room, so I assume he's,
Owen's a meeting, call to order.
Mr. Chairman, the mic is yours.
All right, sir. All right, and I knew you had the, you had that little formatting before, but I will start with that opening statement. I would like to say good evening to the planning board members, the planning staff, and to Deputy Chief Williams. Good evening. So
Good evening.
I will read a prepared opening statement. I am calling this June 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Brockton Planning Board to order. My name is Bob Pelagi, and I am the chair of this board. This meeting is being recorded in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20 relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency. The June 23, 2020 public meeting of the Brockton Planning Board shall be physically closed to the public to avoid group congregation. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the planning board utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and send a comment or question to the chair via the question and answer function. Submitted text comments will be read into the record at the appropriate points in the meeting. For those of you joining us by phone who want to ask a question, press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of the recording and transcript will be posted to the city's webpage within 72 hours. All votes will be done via roll call to ensure count accuracy. A quorum call, board members, please respond in the affirmative to indicate your attendance at this meeting. Bob Pelagi, chair, here. Craig Pina.
Here.
Reggie Thomas.
Here.
Tony Gonzalez. She is not in attendance at this time. Larry Hassan.
Here.
All right, thank you. And so with 4 members voting in the affirmative, I declare we have a quorum. So tonight's agenda. We have June 23, 2020. We have acceptance of the minutes of the March the 3rd, 2020 meeting. We have in the category of endorsements of an A&R plan, subdivision plans, and lot releases. We've got 973 Crescent Street. What plan endorsement needed, it says.
That is a subdivision.
I'm sorry?
It was an approved subdivision. That was probably 6 months ago.
And who's, just out of curiosity, refresh my memory, who's the applicant?
I don't remember his name.
Oh, that's all right. 973 Crescent Street. An A&R, it looks like we've got 3 A&Rs, 568 Montello Street, 616 Center Street, 710 Oak Street. And again, those we're relying, I think, on the planning department to scrutinize those for their completeness, correctness, and format, because a lot of the stuff is, I don't know if the members have had a chance to look at those A&Rs. We'll have to come in and actually sign them physically in the office anyway. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Lot releases. We got lot releases at 728 and 738 and 744 North Carey Street. What does it mean, correction, Pam? I'm sorry.
They were previously released and there was an error on the book and page.
Oh, okay.
I have just recorrected the information.
Okay, so that just has to be done formally again then?
You don't need to vote on them. You just need to re-sign them.
Re-sign them. Okay, so that'll be done at the same time when people come in. Okay, so then you've got lot releases, Curtin Farm Estates, that's lot 12, and lots 1 through 7. And finally, you've got a 257 Bellevue Avenue. Duplicate release. That's an interesting one. What is a duplicate release?
That actual property was released in 2005.
Really?
Nobody ever recorded the lot release. The house has subsequently been sold.
Oh, so now they're closing on the house, they're selling the house, and there's no release on the lot from the planning board?
Yes.
Okay. That's the need for duplicate release. Okay, very good. But it was properly vetted and released at the time?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so moving on to the actual agenda items, we've got proposed street acceptances for Royal Road and Endicott Street. Will the city council be proposing those, or is that Rob?
I believe it's going to be Rob because the counselors are in,
Oh, that's right, too. They're in
finance
budget.
tonight.
Rob,
Yeah, they're in the hearings. Okay, agenda item number 2 is zoning changes. That's section 27-28C1 zones, neighborhood commercial zones, paragraph 3, special permitted uses, as hereby amended. Agenda item 3, well, 2 is going to be handled by Rob. The third one, this one is handled by Rob as well. Section 27.5 of the city ordinances of the city of Brockton, Massachusetts zoning district map dated November the 10th, 1967, and therefore be amended to reflect zoning changes from C2/R2 current to C2 relative to Quincy Street and to Center Street. Let's see. The fourth agenda item is a continuation from last Tuesday's public hearing. That's, and by the way, any comments having to do with the zoning overlay change for the Pearl Street property and the discussion on the appropriateness of the H-dip there, the chapter 40, that you closed that off at 4 p.m. today, is that correct?
4 p.m. yesterday.
I believe you closed that off. Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me, my mistake. That was closed off at 4 p.m. yesterday. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you've posted, I think you said you posted all of those written comments. That's all been posted on the
Yes, sir, on the
on the
webpage.
information board. Okay, so that's items, and by the way, those are, just to remind the board again, those are non-binding recommendation votes to the full city council, items 4 and 5. Moving on. Agenda item 6, permission to return to the zoning board of appeals, property at 587 Center Street, unit 7. It was denied January the 14th, 2020. The applicant is Ruben Piera. That is postponed to July the 7th. Agenda item 7 is a definitive subdivision, property at map 37, plots 4, 6, and 18 Augusta Avenue and plot 36 Prospect Street. It's an 18-lot residential subdivision. That's Freddie Hebsche and Curly Hansen is the engineer. That has been postponed till Aug 4, 2020. Agenda item 8 is a site plan approval, 2 commercial buildings. That's property at 568 Montello Street. The applicant is Gen 3 Realty. That's John Holmgren's office engineer. Agenda item 9 is a definitive subdivision. That's the property is at plot 2 Belgravia Avenue. That's a 4-lot residential subdivision. Silva Engineering is the proponent, and that's postponed. I have a postponement note on it. Postponed to when, Pam? I can't hear you.
Yeah, there's no date on it, it just says postponed. I think it happened today.
It is postponed to the September meeting.
Postponed to the September standard, the conventional September meeting?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. And the 10th agenda item is a definitive subdivision, property at 678 East Street. It says 2 lots, but it's a multi-lot subdivision. It's in both Brockton and East Bridgewater. There are 2 lots, non-buildable lots in Brockton. I forget how many lots there are in East Bridgewater. We'll get into it. It's Benjamin Carroll and Munden Engineering is the engineer representative. So having said all of that, you want to take care of the, you want to do the housekeeping stuff now. Well, for certainly the acceptance of the minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes of the March the 3rd meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes from March 3rd?
Is there a second?
second.
Reggie, you're muted.
Second,
Sorry.
All in favor? Now, do I need to be in proper form? Do I need to take a roll call vote on this?
I believe you do.
I believe I do. Okay, so Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Tony Gonzalez is not in attendance. Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Okay, that takes care of the minutes. Do you want to, Pam, do you want to,
Do you want to do the A&Rs? I do see Michael Kaufman is here, so that if you have questions
Yeah.
about that.
okay, but you want, let's do them individually in case there's some questions or concerns
Okay.
that we need to address. Might as well address them now. So you've got 973 Crescent Street, that one, what are the issues there ahead of endorsing it?
That is 2 commercial properties. It's, like I said, the Bonnie Glen
Yeah,
home improvement site, and there was a home right next door. And they're selling them, so they want to separate them so they can be sold separately.
okay. What zoning district is not, what zoning district is it?
They're commercially zoned.
Okay. And the plans, again, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage here. The plans are in compliance. Obviously, you'll have to vet the plans. I don't believe, let's see, from memory now, we're not taking individual votes on endorsing A&R plans as far as I know. Are we?
Mr.
you
Chairman,
should-
you can hear all 3 of them together if you choose to.
Okay,
But if you remember, there was an outstanding question about the Oak Street,
yeah.
710 Oak Street.
I'm okay. It may be just a housekeeping thing, but I understand that in that zoning district, that they don't have to provide frontage on a public way, but there has to be legal access. You can't create, the plan clearly has to show access. You can't create a landlocked parcel of land.
Where did he go?
Was that done by
There he is.
Holmgren and Associates?
No, that wasn't, no, not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
No, that's.
Rob, can you unmute?
I will unmute Mr. Kaufman.
I cannot for some reason.
Mr. Kaufman,
I'm here.
the question that has been raised is, there's an easement that's shown on the plan, and the board wants to make sure that that easement supports the new lot in the back, that it will have access. It's not just a standalone island.
That's correct.
Okay.
There is access through the front lot, then, in other words.
There's 2 means of access: through the front lot that currently is the gas station, as well as the Walmart driveway itself.
Okay. And are you at liberty? You don't need to if you don't want to. Are you at liberty to disclose what the future plans for that lot is?
I honestly don't know. That's the reason why I'm subdividing it. We are under contract to sell the gas station to a third party. So that transaction will be happening sometime in the next couple of weeks. Or sorry, it's supposed to happen on June 30th, which was the rush for this meeting. And then we have had discussions with car wash operators, including Cumberland Farms. But COVID has put a kibosh on a lot of these discussions.
Okay. All right. Let's see. That takes care of the 3 A&Rs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a hand up from Scott Farrier, and I do not know if it pertains to these 3 subdivisions, but I would like to allow him to speak just in case he has something to say about these 3. And if not, I'll hold his
Well, he's
question.
done Montello.
He's on. Yeah, his,
So Scott,
68.
Scott, you should be unmuted.
I don't believe his plan actually corrects a deficiency. He had He'd moved a lot line.
Sure. Scott, do you have a question or a statement about your about an A&R?
It was just about the two over them going. I got the 568 Montero Street and the 616 Kennedy Street.
Can't hear him.
Scott, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
So,
Is he in the car?
It's
you have me, Cam?
a really bad connection.
Yeah, he may be, is it possible he's mobile or something?
I'm
Might
in my
be.
house, Bob.
Scott, can you use the Q&A function and put your question in there? And I've just lowered your hand, but if I could say, if this is related to an A&R or the A&R, would you re-raise your hand as you're doing your Q&A? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and let the board vote.
I guess he's non-responsive.
Sorry, can you hear me now, Bob?
So, Mr. Chairman, maybe the board should continue with the approval of the A&Rs.
Okay, so do any of the board members have any other concerns or questions about the A&Rs as stated?
No.
Okay, well, if not, then I will, would someone like to make a motion to
Motion,
accept?
motion to accept?
endorsement?
Second.
And I will, that's 568 Montello Street, 616 Center Street, 710 Oak Street. Does that cover it, Pam?
Yes,
And 973 Center, I'm sorry. So roll call vote. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Okay, that takes care of that. We're moving on to lot releases.
well, the only one you need to vote on would be the Curtin Farm Estates, because the other ones are,
The correction, yeah. All right, so back to you. So in other words, they've satisfied their obligation for surety, or for, how far along is the project?
there are 40 total lots, so they're asking for 50% of the lots. The roadway is in, it's base coated, and the utilities are in the ground, and some of the storm water is already done. He's given an estimate for the remaining work, so
He's good. All right, so he's,
good.
all right, very good. So, let's see, lot releases, Curtin Farm, would someone, does anybody have any other questions on Curtin Farm Estates lot release?
No.
Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to release lots 12 and 1 through 7, Curtin Farm?
Motion to release lots 12 and 1 through 7 of Curtin's Farm Estates.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Then lastly, we have the need for a duplicate. Does that require a vote, Pam?
It does not. It was all, like I said, it was issued in 2005. Nobody recorded it.
They didn't act on it. Okay, so we don't need that. Okay, very good. So moving along to our agenda. Proposed
Mr. Chairman.
acceptances for Royal Road and Endicott. Take it away, Rob, please.
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding, we have a question from Mr. Kaufman about when he can get his Mylars signed. That obviously is going to be an interesting process
Can we say in a timely way?
in a timely way. He seems to be chomping at the bit. So if we need to make the Mylars available to you in a place that you all can get. Unfortunately, City Hall is not open at the moment, but there is a first floor security desk. I don't have a problem with leaving the Mylars at the security desk and having you guys sign them.
Is that the desk, is that the desk where the lady sits at, the information desk in the basement level?
No.
It's been moved to the door, and you can't get into City Hall without ringing the bell, and there's a desk right inside the door.
We would have to give
But
your,
it's that same area, Bob.
How many do you need? How many does an A&R need at a minimum? Two, is it? Three?
I need two, but I need all of you on that subdivision plan. So if we can arrange a time, I can bring them down to the guard, and then he can let me know to come and pick them up.
What
I'll
do
be
you,
by tomorrow if you need me.
what day are you
I
thinking?
want to do it all as close to one time as it is.
No, we just, one trip, but what day? So when are you thinking? Tomorrow, the next day, what?
It depends on your schedules.
I mean, you're ready with the plans, right? You could bring them down tonight if you have.
I can bring everything down for signature tomorrow.
Tomorrow honestly may not work for me, but Thursday or Friday, I'm good in the morning.
Can we say Thursday
Anytime.
morning then? I'm available Thursday. How about
Thursday
Thursday?
morning.
That way Larry's available. I think, actually, is Reggie, you're out of town though, Reg, right?
I can do Thursday morning, so I can get up to City Hall Thursday morning.
Can Craig do it?
And then,
Yeah, I can do it.
Craig's around, and then I think Tony's, I know she's not with us right now, but I think she's in the area, isn't she?
Well, if I got the four of you, I'd be fine.
Okay, so Thursday morning after 8:30, can we say?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Oh, excuse me, what time?
Anytime after 8:30 or 8:30, 9
Can
o'clock.
you, how about 9:30?
9:30.
Sounds good.
Does that work for Mr. Kaufman?
Well, then I'll have to contact him and have to make arrangements for him to pick it up. So,
Yep.
Right.
same process, different day.
Very good. So we'll be there. We'll be there, what, one at a time, right? You can't be,
Right.
Well, he'll let you in one at a time. That's what'll happen.
yeah,
That's fine.
okay, very good.
I'll wear a mask and gloves.
Yeah,
It's a very
mean,
clean place.
very good. So we'll take care of that. I'll be there as well. So we'll take care of that.
Oh, Thursday.
So are we moving on now to the first agenda item?
Yes, sir.
Take it away, Mr. May, please.
Good evening. Item number one is a referral from City Council to accept Royal Road and Endicott Street in the 6th Ward. The petition is in the file and properly endorsed. So it just needs your non-binding consideration as to whether or not we should positively endorse or positively refer this back to City Council.
Quick question for you, sir. Are those two streets in bad need of repair and rebuilding, or are they, what is the, if you know, what is the point of, they're both.
Do you know a street?
Why are they making them public now?
Do you know a street in Brockton that isn't?
What?
Nothing, sir. I am sure that they are in need of repair, but putting them onto, accepting them as public streets would allow Chapter 90 funds to be spent on them.
Yeah.
However, with the limited amount of Chapter 90 funds that are available, it's they hit the back of the priority list, but at least they are in line.
They're in the
and
queue.
Someday they
Yeah.
may be paid.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, a motion and a second.
Yep, we go through the same one every time, and I'm really disappointed we don't have, we don't get to hear Jack Lally's speech that we've all pretty much memorized by now.
Yeah.
But motion to approve favorably.
Railroad and Endicott Street.
And I second.
Royal Road, sir.
Railroad. And who seconded that?
Yeah.
Roll call vote. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina.
Yes.
Reggie Thomas.
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
So voted. Okay, agenda item number 2 is zoning changes, section 2728, C1 zones, neighborhood commercial zones, paragraph 3, special permitted uses is hereby amended. Good evening, Mr. May. Take it away.
Good evening, sir. As many people in the city know, if you want to operate a restaurant in the city of Brockton, you need to apply for a special permit. This has been a long-standing ordinance, and it's just the way things have been done. But in modern times, we think that we can do away with this. We want to move, and the purpose of this ordinance is to make restaurants without drive-through facilities a by right use. Restaurants with drive-through facilities would still remain a special permitted use, which means it has to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This also recognizes outdoor dining as an allowed use with an existing restaurant. So right now we have a temporary system where under the governor's orders for social distancing, we're allowing outdoor dining. But once that restriction is lifted, or that inclusion is lifted, all those outdoor dining situations would have to disappear. So we'd like to make outdoor dining a legitimate use, and then restaurants by right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it goes from a special permit issue to a by right issue.
Yes, sir.
And again, that's in, to be clear, that's your targeted C2. Let's see, you've targeted.
So
you've targeted C1 zones.
our zoning code, our C zoning code, C1, C2, C3 are accumulative.
Yeah.
And C1 is the most restrictive. So if it's allowed in C1, it's not naturally allowed in C2 and C3.
Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Are we looking for another favorable recommendation or an approval?
Favorable recommendation.
Any discussion on the part of the board?
I think this is long
Yes,
overdue. The city's needed this for a long time.
Check out your cheat sheets.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, to send someone to the zoning board, they have to go each and every time, as Rob has stated, and hope to get a special permit. If it's a permitted use, I mean, if it's a logically permitted use in the zoning district, it would make sense. So, any other discussion on the matter?
Just a question. Do we have any right now that are actually doing the outdoor dining in Brockton for the COVID? I'm not familiar with anyone that are doing the outdoor dining.
Yes, we have several restaurants that are opening up to outdoor dining.
Okay.
Right now.
And so they're probably demonstrating some proper requirements or following along with things like that would maybe look favorable when it comes time to make it more of a permanent. There you go. Thank you.
Yes, the health department, or excuse me, the licensing commission is regulating how those restaurants open up in accordance with the governor's orders.
I agree with that.
Okay. Assuming that no one else has any other input on that, let's go to I guess, a roll call vote. And again, this is.
I'd like to move favorably to recommend an ordinance amending Chapter 27 of the revised ordinance of the City of Brockton concerning restaurants back to the City Council for their consideration.
Second.
Okay.
Who was that? Who seconded that?
Larry.
Larry.
Sorry, I was looking down, so.
Okay.
All right, roll. Okay, so you've got the motion and the second. Roll call vote, yes. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina?
Yes.
Reggie Thomas?
Yes.
Larry Hassan?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Agenda item, let's see. 3, yes, thank you. I'm losing my place here for. Okay, section 27.5 of the city ordinances of the City of Brockton, Massachusetts zoning district map dated November the 10th, 1967, and thereafter amended. be amended to reflect the zoning changes from C2/R2 current to C2 relative to Quincy Street and Center Street. It sounds like you're targeting a specific area there, Rob, but take it away.
Correct, sir. Councilor Jeffrey Thompson has introduced this proposal, and I should say that it passed unanimously from City Council Ordinance Committee. We, again, are a non-binding recommendation, but the proposal here would rezone several split lots that are commercial in the front and residential in the back to make the lots all commercial. As you know, if you have commercial in the front and you want to do parking in the back, if parking is in a C2 or an R1 or an R2 district, you have to go to zoning boards to get relief. This again is a burdensome hurdle for folks to have to jump, and it just clears it up and makes it a little bit easier for those properties to get redeveloped.
Okay, but in doing that, one thing comes to mind from having done a few of them. If you have, as you said, commercial in the front and you've got residential in the back, it's very likely that that back piece, which is residential, abuts residential. So if in a person's proposal, they want to use the back piece, which is zoned residential, in a commercial manner, there's this whole set of regulations that you must, starting with noise mitigation and fencing and everything else that now kicks in. So it's well beyond just waving a magic wand saying you have a piece of residential property behind a commercial property, go ahead and use it commercial. You know, so there's
That is correct.
There are some strings there.
Yes, that is correct. The zoning ordinance has some very specific language.
So we can
about
recommend
buffering.
that. I'm wondering if, I'm hoping that if it passes, why not? It makes it easier for the person who owns it to facilitate the property, but I'm hoping that when they do it, it also encompasses all of those necessary things that you would need to do if a piece of property abuts a residential unit.
So that's by ordinance anyway, isn't it?
Huh?
Yes,
That's all by ordinance.
It's already in the ordinance.
Yeah. Is it? I didn't read the complete. Okay. All right. That's my only concern. Any other questions or concerns on the part of the board?
No, Bob, you mentioned it. I just wanted, I guess it's thought out as far as hardships on those particular property owners, but I just wanted to make sure that was, I don't know, spelled out. I could see somebody getting into a situation they didn't expect, I guess, with this change, but nonetheless, I know it makes it a little easier for the commercial properties to get these approvals going.
Yeah.
Motion to recommend favorably?
I second that.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to agenda items 4 and 5. They're both continuations from last week's meeting of June the 17th. And again, the comment on both of those issues, the overlay adoption and the appropriateness of the HDIP 40B, those comments were closed off at 4 p.m. yesterday, and I assume that I'm understanding that those were all read into the record. In the interest of time conservancy, unless someone really wants to, I'm not going to, those have been made part of the public record. I'm not going to, and I understand that a lot of it had to do with the same concerns that we've heard. Those are valid concerns on the part of the neighbors and the abutters about congestion at the major intersection and also the traffic there. Unless someone really wants for us to read all of those into the record, I'd like to forego that. Okay. All right. So anyway, agenda item number 4 is the zoning overlay adoption proposed North Pearl Street overlay district. Properties at 34 North Pearl Street and 48 North Pearl Street. We all know it is the Braymore Nursing Home property. This is a continuation of last week's public hearing. We've heard the proponents, we've heard the concerns of the neighbors. And I want to also reiterate that this thing needs to go through, if it's accepted gets its acceptance from the full city council, because again, we're just making a recommendation. It's got to go through full site plan review, and I myself have some concerns which I've expressed, and you likely do too, which you should at the appropriate time. So is there any more concern and discussion on the part of the board members at this time?
No, I think we've heard a lot of discussion on this. I think I'd like to make a motion that we accept all the written comments into the record.
Okay,
So those are all the written comments that were received before 4 p.m. yesterday?
Yes, and there were actually some that came in today that I added to the record, and I sent you all a separate spreadsheet with everybody's names, their property addresses, the date that they submitted letters, and as you can see, many of them submitted not one, not two, sometimes 3 letters.
and so everything that you received in its entirety was made part of the record then?
Yes, it was.
Right.
Okay. I think it's important enough. Let's make a motion in a second, and we'll vote on the adoption of all of those comments. It's that important.
I already made the motion.
Okay, second, please.
Second. I second that.
Okay, Larry seconded. Roll call vote, Bob Pelagi, on the adoption of all of the comments and concerns of the neighbors in writing. Bob Pelagi is a yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Okay, now comes the non-binding recommendation to the full city council for the adoption of the overlay district.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
quick statement. I did speak to Councilor Cruz this afternoon. He is could not make it this evening to our meeting. He has the budget hearings in front of city council
Yes.
tonight and tomorrow night. But he did want to let it be known that he has received these comments. And then he wanted to also remind the audience and the planning board that what you're looking at today is a motion to allow the zoning. It's not necessarily to approve a specific project.
That's
But
correct.
still will have to come through site plan review.
Yeah,
He wanted
absolutely.
me to make sure you got that information.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're aware of it, but thank you for clarifying that and stating it. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, one
Yes, sir.
last point. I'm sorry. I'm getting some people raising their hands, and I wanted to know if the committee or if the board will be closing the public hearing or if they'll be taking more public testimony.
Did we say, and I don't want to conflict with what we had stated last week. Someone please help me. My memory is, didn't we say that we would entertain written comments up until 4 p.m. yesterday, but that we would not, correct me if I'm making a mistake here, but that we would not take additional live comments?
That is correct.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Were we in agreement with that then? I believe I'm stating that accurately. So, okay, so let's move along to, assuming that none of the board members have any other concerns, questions, or comments. And if you don't, let's move to a motion.
Motion to recommend favorably to the city council.
Second.
The overlay district.
Yes.
Second.
So you've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 5 is discussion on a draft housing development incentive program zone that's called HDIP. It's being proposed by the department under the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 40B. The proposed HDIP zone is located in Brockton Heights near the intersection of North Pearl Street, Pleasant Street. Again, that's the Braemore Nursing. Some discussion on this. This one, myself personally, I'll share with you my own concerns and my own thoughts on it, and that is that basically these incentives, these government incentives, it's a tax incentive to the developer at a tax cost to the city to incentivize the project. And this is me speaking now. I understand when we implement those things, let's say in a downtown setting, I guess it's a little tougher ride down there when you're talking about doing multifamily development in the downtown core. This is prime property that Brockton has. This is our west side. This is some of the prime, potentially prime development location that we've got left in the city. I don't know. I'm having trouble incentivizing someone to come and do this project, and that's why I want to have a discussion about it. But I don't see this as in the same category, in the same light as I would the multitude of projects that we've seen downtown. But that's my initial thought on it.
So you don't like the idea of using the HDIP program?
I
Yeah.
don't, not for this location, I don't.
If this incentive would not get approved, then it would have to be a different type of building project going in there, correct? Or no? Or
I mean,
does
I
somebody
wish
have to come in with their own funds and pay those taxes?
I wish I had the comfort of knowing whether it was a quote unquote deal breaker. I don't know that it necessarily is. Rob did explain on one or two occasions that the extent of the incentive, or the tax incentive, was that it was limited to 5 years, and it was limited to, I think you said, Rob, a maximum of 10% of what the projected revenue was.
Correct, sir.
Did you say that? Am I stating that correctly?
Yes, yes. The minimum requirement from the state is 5 years
Yeah.
and at 10%. 10% of $530,000 a year is, excuse me, the city would collect 90,000 or 90% of the $530,000 a year, which is a heck of a lot more than 100% of zero.
Yeah.
The one issue that, while it's a little bit of skin in the game for the city of Brockton, it also unlocks up to $2 million in state funding that is only available to gateway city communities. This was specifically legislation that was specifically passed to support market rate housing development in communities that need it. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, and then I want to be clear on another thing. Just like with downtown, with all of those 40R projects, Rob, when we get into these 40R projects downtown, don't we give up? Well, no, I know the answer to this because I've sat through enough site plan review hearings. We give up some control. I mean, I think that's fair to say. We give up design control. We give up, for example, the density, parking spaces. I mean, some dimensional requirements. When we enter into these 40R projects, I think that's a reasonable, fair thing to say. It isn't.
Actually, we have, the planning board has the control through the site plan approval process, the site plan review. The applicant is building to the design guidelines that the city council and the planning board have created, and they're building to the ordinance that was produced. And I think that gives us a significant amount of control over what we see, as opposed to trying to do horse trading or browbeating at that process. So the HDIP that we're doing downtown, just as we are doing out in this area at Brockton Heights, if it were to pass, does still, it's just about the tax and financing. It has nothing to do with the design, the density, or any of those other things.
So in the 40 Victor, we don't, in other words, if that got adopted, we don't give up any design controls or anything?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, or concerns? I mean, again,
would you like to, we said that we're not taking any more public testimony, so I know that Mr. Lambert has raised his hand, but I think that might
well, he's
be,
not, he's the proponent, so.
Yeah, I think that would you grant him that
Yes.
opportunity as a proponent?
Yes.
Okay, I will do so, sir. Mr. Lambert, you are live.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the chance to speak. And so I just wanted to quickly address, if I could, the concerns about the location versus downtown. And I completely understand what you're saying. However, what I would say is that while this is very desirable real estate for the city of Brockton, which is why we're very excited to be developing here, it is also still going to be, to my understanding, one of the largest investments made in the in the city of Brockton, at least for multifamily housing in quite a long time. And the market is still untested for this level of housing. So that's one thing. Two, and that's whether you're downtown or out on the west side where we're proposing the development. Two is, we're in some uncertain times right now economically, and there's investment being pulled from projects all around the country. We don't want to see that happen here. So I'm not sitting here in any position right now to talk about deal breakers or not deal breakers, but we certainly feel like with the HDIP in place, we feel like this is a financeable deal. We are, and to just maybe correct or modify one thing that was discussed about maximums and things like that. So the program, and Rob can help me out with this, the program actually allows a maximum of 20 years and up to 100% per year of financing. And we're actually looking for like the bare minimum deal between the city and us as the developer that just gives us access to the state funds. And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of the program. And we're basically looking for that access to the state funding.
That is what we are contemplating here.
The way I see it, this is a project that is basically, Mr. Lambert said last week that it's going to be a higher end type of project than Axis and Bridgewater. Definitely the highest level and project we've seen in the city of Brockton. I think in the long run, it can be a benefit for the city, even though, 10% of $530,000 per year. And how long is that for? 5 years?
5 years.
And it seems like something that we really can't pass up.
Well, any other comments or comments or concerns? It is an attractive project. I didn't get a chance to visit the one in Walpole there, but I did look through that pictorial that was sent along. That if it's going to approximately, I use the word mimic, if it's going to approximately copy that one, it's certainly a very high-end, very attractive project. And aside from the issues that we would need to handle at the site plan review level, relative to density or traffic and so forth, congestion at the intersection, I think it'll be a successful project from the terms of appeal. I don't know about finances or economics of it, but I don't know. It just struck me. I don't need to look at it in such a tunnel vision vein, but it just struck me that the city gives tax incentives where we feel it will benefit a proponent and hopefully benefit in the longer term to benefit the city. And I always looked at those areas up in there as maybe not meeting that. But that's just my one view. So that's just me. So any other questions or concerns on this?
No.
Anything else someone want to make a motion to
Motion to favorably recommend the HDIP program to City Council.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Larry. All right. Well, roll call vote. Bob Pelagi? No. Craig Pina?
Yes.
Reggie Thomas?
Yes.
Larry Hassan?
Yes.
Okay. So voted. All right. Thank you. All right. So moving along, agenda item number 6 has been postpone. That's the return to the zoning board, 587 Center Street. Agenda item number 7, definitive subdivision. That's the repeat subdivision there. That's at 18 lot residential subdivision, Frederick Kepke. That has been postponed to August the 4th, 2020. We're moving along now to agenda item number 8, site plan approval, 2 commercial buildings. This was, again, sure everybody is aware, this was before the planning board, I think once before, Pam, wasn't it not?
Yes,
It
yes.
just needed it needed the correction, needed a lot line correction. And I think there might have been 1 or 2 issues, minor housekeeping issues with the site plans that were addressed. So are there anything else that you're aware of, Pam and or Rob, on these?
No, but Scott, I believe, is back. He was. Oh, there he is. Yep, he's there.
Okay. His plane has landed then?
Pam, can you unlock Scott?
I did.
All right,
Oh,
I'm here, guys. Do you have me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that last time.
The camera's on.
The camera doesn't need to be on. Yeah, so what we have is the site plan at the Nicoli Brothers oil site on Montello Street. As you said, we had a couple of housekeeping issues to take care of. The lot lines that were on the A&R plan that you folks talked about at the beginning of the meeting. We just needed to adjust the lot lines to match up with that A&R plan. And everything else went to tech review, had a few small issues to take care of, and we've done all of that.
Now, this is a public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you, all right. So that does address what was going on when we last had this project. Now, this being a public hearing, I don't remember now. It's too long ago. Did we close the public hearing, Pam, or is it?
You did not.
So it's ongoing.
Correct.
Did we hear public testimony? I don't remember.
I don't believe there was any.
It was not.
So there was not?
That's correct.
It's a very commercialized area, so.
Okay, so there was no abutter input, there was no public testimony, no city
No.
council testimony?
I mean, nobody's raising their hand now, so I'm assuming that.
I'm relying on you for that, so,
Yeah, nothing at all last time, Mr. Chairman.
all right, thank you. Well, if you don't see any, I mean, we're inviting it to rear itself now, but if you don't see anything, I'm going to declare the public hearing portion closed. And then now we will move on to, I assume the planning board has no further comments on it, so I guess we can move to a motion.
Make a motion to approve the site plan approval of 568 Montello Street.
A second, please. That's Larry. Okay, roll call vote. Bob Pelagi, that's yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Hope to see you soon.
Thank
See you,
you.
Scott. Be
Stay
safe.
safe. All right. We're already on to agenda item number 9. Can you believe it? And it's 6:54. I love it.
don't
That's
jinx it.
postponed.
Time is flown. Okay, so, and then that's been postponed. That's a definitive subdivision property, plot 2,
I
Bulgaria.
believe it's September 1st, but let me just,
September. Okay,
I think, let me just check my calendar here.
Just for the record, September meeting, it should be enough.
so all I have is September meeting. It's
It's the September 1st meeting.
September 1st meeting, so noted. Okay? So we are moving on to the final agenda item. And that would be a definitive subdivision, properties at 678 East Street. This is a multi-lot subdivision, a multi-municipality subdivision. It's in Brockton and East Bridgewater. The owner representative is Benjamin Carroll, and it's Munden Engineering is the engineering support staff. So this has a long and storied history to it. I think this goes back, what, Pam, maybe 10 years?
Originally, yeah.
It could be, yeah. And Are you in a, I always like to preface my comments with not to put you on the spot, but sometimes, somehow I always do. So not to put you on the spot, can you give us a little critique if you would? Are you,
The original subdivision provided for, I believe, a one house, maybe two houses. This is an old commercial site. I believe it's in either the Knights of Columbus or,
tonight, yeah,
and
This
there's
was the
been,
Knights of Columbus.
Sons of Italy.
No, Knights of Columbus.
yes.
well, one of those. It is, yeah. So, and it's had various proposals come through. Michael Heichel had one that didn't go anywhere. The Carrolls purchased the property. They provided a plan to subdivide. The original plan, I believe, had some non-buildable lots in Brockton that they would have asked for variances for. The bulk of the property and the homes are in East Bridgewater. The original proposal was denied by the planning board. And you could see all that. I attached the old plans and the litigation. The court remanded it back with very specific terms of approval. The planning board then approved it. And somehow the plan never got signed. The applicant, I don't know what happened, but the applicant never followed through. So she is here tonight to represent that application.
Okay, thank you for that. And then we're all in receipt of the local councilor's letter that highlights a bunch of things, a bunch of concerns.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could you allow, or should we allow now the project proponent to make her presentation?
Why not? That's a good idea. Sure, let's do that.
So she should have the ability to share her screen and show the plans. Gigi, you're on.
Hi, I don't think I have, hi, this is Gigi Munden, professional civil engineer, representing Ben
Oh,
Carroll for this
let me
property.
move you up a level. Hang on. You are now a panelist. Congratulations.
And Ben Carroll is the applicant?
I am moving him up also. So you will be able to share screen now.
And I believe.
Okay. I'm gonna share now. Okay, good evening. This is the subdivision plan. We are looking, so this proposed plan is not very different than what was dated 2015. Some of the differences are we have made some improvements to the road on the Brockton side with lightning and sidewalks and all that requirements to meet the Brockton regulations, because the reason the owners didn't follow through with this was the East Bridgewater town requires a subdivision to be formed only as an extension of a public way. So when the planning board, Brockton Planning Board made the decision 2015, keeping this, the portion in the Brockton a private way, it couldn't really go through East Bridgewater at all. So this is mostly similar plan. We're not seeking any waivers for the lots in Brockton. Those will be non-buildable lots, but we seek the portion of the way in Brockton to be as a public way.
I have one, are you finished with your presentation at this point?
Yes,
Is it Gigi?
yes.
Okay, I'm Bob Pelagi. I had one question, and that is that where the proposed road meets E Street, I know that the applicant was not successful in gaining those radii, those sectors there at the street there to make the turning radiuses, and that's why the proposed road meets at 90 degrees. So if you can enlarge that now, so because of that now, I don't know that we went through this before. See, I've got to get myself back into this thing. I don't remember if you now meet the minimum required radius at the paving line, because you weren't able to acquire those little pie-shaped pieces at the street. Are you following me?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know, I'd have to look at the geometry on those, on your paving to see if you meet that. You may not.
Well,
When you say make the claim that you're meeting all of Brockton's design standards, with respect, I question that.
I have not claimed we met. We have waivers requested on the first page of the plan. I didn't say we met all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you make the claim that you weren't asking for any waivers? Is that what it was?
We did ask for waivers, yeah.
Okay.
So for the street to connect to East Street, I became aware of the radius discussions and the land court stuff after the submission, but after I became familiar with it, there is really no, how else would we connect to East Street with this property? This is the land Carol's own. So maybe the only thing I can think of is to maybe get a safety analysis and then ask for a waiver for the radius. But unless they purchase a property next door or the other, this is the only way it can really connect. It's 50 foot.
Yeah, they weren't even, if my memory serves, and again, this goes back a ways, but the applicant wasn't even successful in acquiring an easement for roadway purposes. I think he approached both of those owners and couldn't even get an easement for roadway purposes to facilitate making those turns of, meeting those radiuses at the gutter line there. So I'd have to look at that. I gotta look at the geometry there and see it. I can't see it at that small a detail, but I remember that was a discussion point.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I ask Gigi to go to, I believe it's page LI, which is the road diagrams, and if she could blow that up to adult size where it meets East Street, and I'm talking about seriously blowing it up so we can see it.
It one here.
No, that's not the page. There, one more. Nope, go back one. That was it. I'm sorry. If you could blow that section up where you meet East Street. Keep going a little bit larger. And maybe I'm looking at a different plan set.
Yeah, because
Um,
I'm looking at LI too, Rob, and it's not the same as the one I see on the map on the screen.
There are two sets of plans there. There's
Uh-oh.
the original set of plans that was done by Pilling Engineering, and this set of plans, and they're both on,
Oh, this 2015. All right, I see it. I'm looking
they're
at the
both
wrong
in your
set.
Google Drive.
See, I want to see the one, I'd like to see the one where the proposed paving of the new road meets the existing paving. That's where it's going to show you turning radius.
Yeah,
Yes.
on that old plan that I was just looking at, it indicates that there is a turning radius there. You know, and Brockton requires the lot to have that turning radius, which, you know, quite frankly, is a little odd, as long as the road is making that 30-degree turn radius. And if you looked at the 2015 plan, it does show the road making that 30-degree radius. So I would like to know from Gigi if these new plans make that 30-degree radius also.
As shown on the,
It's not marked on this plan.
yes, it's not marked. We have to mark it for the next,
When you, Rob, when you make a reference to it, what do you mean by 30-degree radius?
Where the road, or in Brockton's terms, it's where the lot meets the right-of-way. You're supposed to go back 30 feet and then draw a radius, or have a 30-foot radius and draw an arc that allows wider turning angles.
Okay, well, their proposed street lines are meeting East Street at 90 degrees. They have no radiuses.
That is the lot line. And my issue is that this is kind of, bogus isn't the right word, arbitrary, I think. It's more important that the road has that turning radius than the lot have that turning radius.
Yeah, I understand. That's what I was
turning onto the road.
That's what I was saying. I wanted to see at the minimum if the turning radius. Okay, I'm backing it in. So in other words, if the city's standard is 30 feet, is a 30-foot radius where a proposed street meets an existing street, you can figure out what the radius of the paving is, and I want to see if we have that. That's all.
Correct, because that's a much more safer calculation.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if she could update the plans for our next meeting, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
yes, we will include the turning radius. Turning radius is a little different than just like straight up normal angle to the road. So we will have to include that and propose that. But I guess last time there was some discussions from the documents that I was reading, that there was a discussion of how to interpret the turning radius. So for next meeting, we will also have a counsel help us with that as well. And so.
Well, honestly, I didn't think there was a lot of room for interpretation of Brockton's regulations on turning radius, but I'd like to see what you propose. What is, Gigi, what is your proposed roadway width in the town of East Bridgewater?
40.
No, that's pardon me, I am sorry. What is the paving width?
Paving width, just 1 second, I have to go to the details. Okay, we have it right here. The paving width there is 26.
You're proposing in East Bridgewater 26 feet of paving?
Yes.
And that's what? That's from what? Gutter line to gutter line, or from, because you're proposing what? The Cape Cod berm there?
Yes, in that section is Cape Cod berm.
Yeah. So you got 40, 26, you got 14, you got what? You got, because you only got, what, you got a sidewalk on one side? I can't, I gotta get that.
You got sidewalks on both sides.
In East Bridgewater?
Yes,
How many lots have you got in East Bridgewater?
7.
I'm sorry?
7.
7, okay. Have you submitted this plan as a preliminary plan in East Bridgewater?
No, they wouldn't even come, to be honest with you, to do, like, look at the test pits for the drainage area. They said they need a decision from Brockton first.
So you haven't really gotten any feedback from East Bridgewater Planning on it at all?
Yeah, we approached them, but they wouldn't, they said they didn't want to, quote unquote,
Yeah.
waste their time.
Gigi, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Gigi, could you explain what the difference is between the plan that is sitting in front of us right now and the plan that was approved by the planning board 2.5 years ago, Pam?
Yeah, anyway.
Well, it's
No, I think it's longer than that.
2015.
Well, it's not the 2015 plan because that was the one that went to court, but an interim plan came before the planning board that was approved by the planning board, but the developer failed to act upon it.
Why did they need to redo I agree with your question, Rob. What was the need to redo the complete plan from Pilling's plan?
Well, first of all, this decision, if you can see it, expired because it was 2 years. And another one was, as mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, was because it's not going to work for East Bridgewater if this is a private way. Their bylaws just regulate, nobody, just under no circumstances, can have a road extending from for a subdivision from a private road.
Yes, no, I understand that. That's what you're well stated. What was in a nutshell though, Gigi, what was the reason why the Pilling plan wasn't just resubmitted again? Why was this completely redone?
Well, we did some changes like the sidewalks and lighting, and those were the main changes. But the main reason is to get an approval for a public way on Brockton side.
Well, you could have done that with, well, I mean, I'm appreciative of the changes that you highlighted, but you could have gotten that with Pilling's plan as well, even though it expired. That's okay. Well, okay, I'll let that go. Well, anyway. So
Mr. Chairman, could I say something or ask?
please,
something?
yes, sir.
I understand the need for the radius as you're turning in, but I'd rather see more pavement and a little sharper radius than reducing the road to 26 feet. I'd rather have it stay out maybe at 34 feet and give us more room on blacktop to pull into.
Are you speaking, Chief Williams, are you speaking about the Brockton development or the East Bridgewater development?
Yeah, I think the problem is it narrows down when it gets into East Bridgewater.
That's a
Right,
big problem.
but the Brockton development, they're proposing that it be reduced to 26 feet for the roadway width, I believe, if I'm correct.
No, it's for the most part in Brockton, until it goes through, it's 50 foot roadway with
Yeah, but
34
that's the width of the layout. What is the paving?
34.
I think it was actually approved at 26, which is really for Brockton, for what Brockton has for equipment, that's really, I mean, I've always felt that way. It's always undersized.
They have a waiver request on this plan that says that they're looking for a Brockton waiver request to go from 34 to 26.
You have a recommendation for minimal width, Mr. Williams?
I'd keep it at 34 and give us more room to more blacktop to actually operate the trucks on. Although we hope we'll never be down there, we're bound to be down there sooner or later.
So the existing building is going to be demoed
Yes.
and nothing's going, they can't build a house there. And the other lot is also restricted as non-buildable by the court judgment. So all the homes are actually going to be over the town line.
Right.
But how realistic is it, Chief Williams, in reality, if there's a home that's in fully engulfed in fire and it's 2 or 3 lots into West Bridgewater, Brockton is not going?
No, we will probably be there. That was my point. We'll be going in, and the East Bridgewater apparatus will be moving in there too. So the bigger width we have when we turn in, the better off we are. If we can't get the right radii, just give us the extra land to
So
work with.
it's a falsehood to say that Brockton is not going to go, when developers make a hard statement, to say they're not going out of town, they're not going to West Bridgewater, they're not going to Avon. That's not the case.
We always go mutual aid, and we also find in subdivisions like this that border the towns that we'll get a phone call in Brockton saying there's a house fire, and we'll respond. And when we get there, we'll find out it's in East Bridgewater, but we won't turn around and leave. We go to work and put the fire out.
Well, that's been my concern from the get-go. I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir.
And obviously, we are having a hard time viewing what's up on the board. But when I was just on the file, the plans that are dated March of 2020 show a Brockton layout of 50 feet and a Brockton paved surface of 34 feet.
But Rob, on the plan that's there right now that we're looking at, if you look over to the left-hand side, it says Brockton Subdivision Rules and Regulation Waiver Requests. And the first one down says to reduce the width of the right-of-way from 50 to 40 and to reduce the pavement width from 34 to 26.
In between those two, excuse me, in between those two, it says between stations 2 and 3.50 only, which means the waiver for reduction is requested after 200 foot into the road. So the first 200 feet is just to the Brockton regulations is 34 foot pavement, 8-foot sidewalks on each side.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
And Gigi, how long is the road? How long is the road? What's the last? I can't move this. I can't move the screen. What is the end of the cul-de-sac? Is at what station?
It's
about, so it's about 9. You're at about 9. You're at about 9, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can you slide back to where the city line is?
Sure.
Okay,
City
so
line.
you're at the city line. I can't.
About 200?
No, you're at city lines about
350.
350.
Oh, back there.
So you got, you got 6. So you got. Is it fair to say, Gigi, you got 650 feet of roadway, proposed 650 in East Bridgewater?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is it also reasonable and fair to say that if you want to make the road wider, I understand that East Bridgewater has its own design regulations. If you want to make the roadway wider, you can, can't you?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, if you wanted to make this roadway fully conforming to Brockton's regulations, you could do it.
Correct.
I'm at a loss to, and again, I got to be careful. This is not my subdivision. I don't know why. It doesn't make logic to me that you would design impediments into the, I'm afraid I don't get it.
Well, the biggest driven in any development project other than regulations and developmental rights is the cost. Building a road for 650 foot with a huge cul-de-sac at the end, a 10-foot difference per feet of road makes a great deal of difference in cost. It makes
Well,
a big
with,
difference in impervious surfaces, which is which would increase the impervious surface area and the runoff, which
yes,
does.
it's going to, I understand that. It's going to increase your runoff. It's going to increase your whole stormwater management program there. It's going to increase your, whatever you got, a detention, retention, and I understand that, but not, well, easy for me to say, isn't it? Not by a percentage that is prohibitive. It just isn't. When you think of, in terms of the fact that you are looking for Brockton's approval, and you know what Brockton is looking for, and you know what Brockton's standards are, I mean, a choked down roadway, and you heard it from a senior representative of the fire department, what the likelihood is here. So you're in essence, you're building a 7-lot residential subdivision, and that's going to be supported by, I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself, how many feet of paving do you have in East Bridgewater?
650.
No, I'm sorry. How wide is it, please?
40 foot, 26 foot paving, 40 foot road layout.
I think the paving is, again, and it's 26 feet in East Bridgewater wide.
Yes.
I think it's inadequate if we're going to put our equipment in there. I don't know. I'm just.
Mr. Chair, Larry,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Larry, that was gonna be my question, because we've been talking about this for a long time. What was just explained to me in viewing that waiver request and the amount of roadway that's in there now, looking at this plan, it doesn't seem to satisfy what the fire department would want or need. And again, what the point you're making is that they're looking to basically use city of Brockton to enter into their subdivision.
Right.
And with minimal, for lack of better words, crucify me if you want, standards on that plan. Am I wrong, or?
No, that's accurate. That's accurate. I mean, it just, again, my frustration is that they want and need and is seeking Brockton's approval. I get it because of the configuration of the
Right.
land and everything else and how it comes together. So I understand that. But it seems to me, it doesn't seem to me to be, can I use the word cooperative? I mean, we went through this before. This was before, I think your observation's a good one, Larry. We went through this before when they were before us with this subdivision. It isn't as if we're asking them to build 3,000 feet of roadway. We're talking 650 feet of roadway, expand the layout from 40 to 50. It seems like they're fighting us on this. And you heard from a senior representative of the fire department, Brockton's going to go in there. Now, Brockton knows what Brockton needs for Brockton equipment. With all due respect for what the requirements are in East Bridgewater, this is a Brockton subdivision.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I can ask, because this happens long before any of us were on the board, but Pam, do you remember what the court, when it remanded the case back to the city, said about East Bridgewater standards?
Yes, the remand back said that the road in Brockton should be built to East Bridgewater standards.
Well, it also says in that remand, it doesn't, when our hands aren't totally tied because it does.
No, they are not. But it
does.
would go back to the same judge. You're right.
Yes, let's be clear that if we express concerns like we're expressing right now, it doesn't totally take away our jurisdiction and our vote. And our concerns are what? Our concerns are, I think our concerns are realistic for the what our responsibilities would be here. I mean, if there was some hard and fast guarantee that we're not going to put a piece of equipment over the town line and it's never going to happen, that's one thing. But we're hearing tonight, and I'm actually glad that Chief Williams is on tonight because I think it's good that we're hearing this. It's just a frustration to me. It's a disappointment to me that cost is a factor. I mean, I'm not the real estate expert here. Maybe Larry could jump in if he wants, but I believe that real estate values, lot values are probably the highest that they've ever been in the history of the city. I could be off base here, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think there's enough, I think there's enough potential revenue there that it would support widening the road, but.
Mr. Chairman, the 30, now that it's been pointed out to me properly that Brockton's part for the first 200 feet is 34 feet, that will give us enough turning radius. I'd be content with that on this end. And I will talk, if this goes any further, I'll talk to my associates in East Bridgewater also. It seems, I'm trying to look up their zoning rules right now, but that 20-foot cul-de-sac seems kind of small, but.
You mean that's where you're gonna, I think that's where you're gonna have your turning radius conflict is at the entrance.
Yeah, well, at the entrance at East Street, I think 34 feet would be wide enough for us to get in. But I had another question. On the original plan, there was a fire hydrant on the Brockton side, and I don't see that on this plan. Has that been removed?
No, it hasn't been removed. There is a fire hydrant on the Brockton side. It's just very small, I think. Right here. Proposed hydrant, Brockton standard, see detail. Right here.
Okay, I'm having trouble seeing where you're, oh, right there. Okay. I would only ask that that be moved to the northern side of the road. That was one of the things from the last time, and we have a standard where our hydrants are either on the northern side of the road or the eastern side of the road. So if you would move that across the street, we would want that if that went any further.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Gauging the conversation from the board, it looks like this may continue to the next meeting.
Oh, it certainly will. And plus,
obviously, we also have some people who want to comment or testify.
Sure.
But would the board like to see the applicant submit a plan that shows the wheelbase of a Brockton fire engine and being able to make that radius?
well,
Yeah, I do.
before you do that, that's called auto turn. Before you do that, you want to identify what particular equipment. Chief Williams, what is the largest piece of equipment? What class size is the largest piece of equipment that could be sent to that subdivision?
Oh, we'd send out ladder trucks, and I don't have the dimensions with me right now.
You would send the ladder truck to this subdivision?
We used to ask what the largest truck we could possibly send, and I mean, that would be the ladder truck, depending on what the East Bridgewater would, well, I guess there's two scenarios. If we responded initially on the call for a fire, we would always send 3 engines and a ladder truck to a fire. If East Bridgewater called for help, they could easily request our ladder truck to the scene. So we would send our ladder truck.
Wow. Okay, Gigi, did you hear that?
Yes.
East Bridgewater only has 5 guys on duty at a time. So sometimes they don't have enough men to help and take all the trucks. So they may bring an engine to put the fire out, but request our ladder. It all depends on the situation, when it happens, and what they have for manpower.
And if you think about the proximity, I mean, if Brockton's in a much better position to respond to a fire down there anyway.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is someone on East Street's going to look down the street and see the smoke and call Brockton and say there's a house fire behind 650 East Street, and we're going to think it's ours and respond like we normally would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the last submission contained a letter from the fire chief and the police chief about being first responders. So I'm not sure if those people are currently chief.
I read those today, this afternoon. I read most of the material that you had sent, and I thought.
Yeah, so maybe they want to get another letter too.
Is that from the East Bridgewater side, Pam?
It was from the East Bridgewater Fire Chief and a letter from the East Bridgewater Police Chief saying that they don't expect Brockton to be the first responder, that they will, but it was several years ago. I'm not sure that those gentlemen are currently chief, so maybe.
The fire chief's the same, but I don't think the police chief's the same. And in all reality, if you call up and say, I need an ambulance from one of those houses, or one of those houses call, it should go to the 911 system in East Bridgewater. But
Yeah.
if there's a house fire and someone from East Street calls and says there's a house fire, we're going to end up going. So it's definitely their territory. But the chances of us getting the phone call also is very good. And wouldn't allow our operators to sit there and debate what town it's in. Just send the apparatus and let's get the job done.
Okay,
Mr.
that means your equipment is going on that road.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, can
Yes,
we
sir.
open up for public testimony?
Yes, please.
I know a guest named Janice would like to speak, and I would remind Janice that when we unmute her, if she would give her name and spell her last name and her address. So I'm going to allow you to talk, Janice.
Hello, good evening. My name is Janice Johnson Plumer and my husband Lawrence Plumer. We are one of the abutters at 126 Peterson Ave. So my
Could you
question.
spell your last name, please?
Oh,
I have it.
Oh, thank you, Pam.
Okay. So my question is we're on the Brockton side. So is the conservation land going to be intact, or are we going to be able to see the subdivision from where we are? That's my question.
Peterson Avenue, that's, I think you're a distance away, aren't you?
We're one of the abutters.
Peterson?
We're like.
There's a piece of East Street that abuts,
Peterson, yes.
but I'm not sure where that is.
I didn't know we had conservation land over there.
There's wetlands.
Oh, it's wetlands. Okay, it's not conservation land then.
It's not ours. No.
Well, conservation, the wetland, there's not going to be anything built within 100-foot buffer, at least on the Brockton side. And the East Bridgewater side this is here. This is the 100-foot wetland buffer. This is the building envelope. So it's very unlikely there's going to be any construction within 100-foot zone or any distractions to the wetlands or any conservation regulated protected resource area.
Okay. Okay.
The wetlands are not an issue.
All right.
It doesn't look so. Thank you, Janice.
Thank
did you have any other questions?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, anybody else?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm multitasking. Anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand. Hang on just a second. Keeps flashing. Did Pam raise her hand? Or a Pam?
That's not me.
Looks like, nope, it looks like she's gone. Oh, Pam guessed. Yes, hang on just a second. And again, Pam, we need to know your name, address, spell your last name, and also your street address. Thank you. Pam, I'm listening.
Pam Lindquist, 744 East Street, Lindquist.
Thank you.
Gigi, can you slide the plan to the entrance to the subdivision? And so do we see, is there a Lindquist that's on the plan there? Or are you, is Pam, are you within the proximity of the entrance to the subdivision?
I got a letter as an abutter. We're
Okay.
right past Darby.
Okay, I can't, okay, are you on the opposite side of East Street?
No, I'm on
I think that's Darby down
Knights of
there.
Columbus side.
Okay, and then what is your concern?
My husband's gonna ask the question.
All right.
We need his name,
Two or
please.
three questions I have. For one, this is
Sir,
going to
what-
create
what is your
more
name?
traffic on East Street, which we don't really need. Two, where are they getting their water and sewage from?
So for the water, we would have to get it on East Street, connect to the water main on East Street in Brockton. And for sewage, we don't really need sewage because we'll have, as you can see, we have septic tests done with the witnessed by the East Bridgewater health agent. So the sewage and wastewater there will be handled by leaching areas.
Have you, let's see, I guess, no, you wouldn't have already applied for water, or have you spoken to the local city council regarding getting an intermunicipal agreement?
I have spoken to them a couple times in February, but they would advise, like, they said they needed to be, it needs to be approved by the planning board, but I have an example of from back from 2015 or before, the municipal agreement between the city of Brockton and town East Bridgewater. Well, this wasn't signed, but there's a letter from Public Works from Brockton that they approved 3,000 gallons per day to be provided from East Street Main to the subdivision. So these we will have to get again, but I'm just showing as an example from the previous subdivision applications.
Okay. So as far as the traffic, the gentleman's first question, Gigi, was on traffic. You probably haven't done a formal traffic study. What is your, so you've got 7 houses there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, and what are they, 3 or 4 bedroom houses proposed?
Yes. Well, we don't know the number of bedrooms, yes, but these going to be medium-sized, your everyday single-family houses.
And so can you suggest a daily trip generation based on what you're proposing to build?
We will have to get that in. I just don't want to blurt out numbers on record. So we would have to get a study for that for the next meeting.
So are you suggesting that you're going to do a traffic study then?
Yes.
Okay. And sir, did you have, Mr. Lindquist, did you have a third question?
Yeah, I want to find out what the upside to this is. I don't see any tax revenue coming from it. And all I see is basically the fire department, another road to cover. And the police department's going to end up going there too. You know, so where's the upside to this development?
If I may speak to, in general, to the Mr. Chairman's comments from before about cooperation and your question. So this dwelling here is currently not being used, and this is not in good shape. So that will be demolished, and all the pavement is going to be demolished. At the end of that, we will still, even though when I did the stormwater report, the numbers of impervious surface is rather close, still the entire roadway is going to be directed to the drainage area and reintroduced to the ground by percolation and infiltration. So the runoff in the neighboring properties will reduce significantly as part. This is one of the benefits to the people of Brockton. Abutters on East Street will receive. And the owners do come, nobody in this application is coming in, oh, we just want to do what we want to do. I personally strongly believe the impervious surface reduction where possible and that's why it was proposed. It's, so that's the benefit, and that's our commitment to cooperation with the municipality of Brockton in this project.
Gigi, I can't read the, unless you enlarge that, I can't, the topo is in that. So where does that currently, where does all that in the runoff from the building and the associated paving, where does that go now? Looks like it heads to the south, is it?
Mm-hmm. It kind of goes like this way.
Well, there's a wetland there anyway. Yeah, there's a wetland. Yeah. Are there complaints of flooding in that area or?
From in the decision here, it's number 6 is developer agrees to address the stormwater runoff issue at 720 East Street as part of this project. And so apparently there was some complaints about that, and that we'll just remove all the impervious surface
So
once
if you were to take the building and the associated paving away,
yes.
and then you develop your roadway, you're saying it's about roughly, in rough terms, it's about an equal exchange of impervious area?
Yes.
About, okay, that's interesting.
It's a lot of payment there. It doesn't look like it at first,
I know,
but
I know, I've been to that site and I know it's a lot of paving. But the biggest difference is that the paving that the subdivision creates will be treated and will be infiltrated.
yes, and it will all be directed to East Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question though, because Brockton's gonna have a road to maintain, more service that our fire department's gonna have to handle. We're gonna have to plow a road, but we get no tax revenue from any of this.
Well, they claimed in earlier correspondence, and that might have changed. That's a good point, Craig. But they've claimed that this roadway would be of no burden to the city of Brockton when it came to maintenance and plowing and so forth. It was going to be a homeowners association or something. That was going to, if you look in some of the previous correspondence, and I know the history of this thing is really somewhat complex.
And I know 7 houses. I mean, we can do a traffic study, but we've read enough traffic studies that 7 houses are going to cause a lot of traffic. But my issue is we're holding developers to a standard on roadways, and we can't. I don't like the idea of just changing our standards because they're going into East Bridgewater.
I'm sorry, you don't like the idea of what would you say? What was the word?
Changing our roadway standards. They've got to comply with complete streets, and this doesn't seem to do that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that jumps out at me is the severe jump in a reduction in. They didn't even smooth it out or try to mitigate the bump, but you can see those 2 huge bumps in the paving. You see it?
Yeah, yeah.
When it reduces from, I mean, if you're not paying attention, if you're eating your sausage sandwich and not paying attention, you're gonna go on the sidewalk there. But I don't know.
It's a tank trap.
Huh?
It's a tank trap.
So are the sidewalks in the Brockton area part going to be granite curbs?
Yes.
And then you're switching to Cape Cod berms in East Bridgewater?
Mr. Chairman, when they said they were going to have a homeowners association take care of it, I believe that was before they wanted the road in Brockton to become a public way. If it's a public way, the DPW will have a responsibility to maintain the road and to plow it and stuff like that, I think.
That could be the case, Mr. Williams. Yeah, I think that you're probably right. Those references to keeping it the taking responsibility for the maintenance was if it was a private way. That's a good point. I mean, the lack of.
Chairman?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we're going to be continuing this.
Yes.
And maybe let's give the applicant a chance to come up with something, especially how we might get a payment in lieu to take care of the roadway that's in the Brockton side. But I wanted to see if there were any other callers that had questions, or well, first of all, if Pam and her husband were finished.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Thank
you, Lam. And then to see if there are any other callers with questions. Please raise your hand if you have questions. Gigi found her camera.
Yes.
I do not see any more questions being asked right now, but I would recommend that we keep the public hearing open to the next meeting. Not that I'm trying to push you off.
Nope.
And get
So
off.
if I may ask one more question myself about the complete streets. I am aware of the complete streets requirements and the striving of the towns. I used to actually work at Canton Public Works. That's why I did the initial part of the street with the full requirements, all full length sidewalks, lightning, all, and the ADA passing, all that stuff. But I didn't think expanding it to the line would be beneficial because it's just going to go to East Bridgewater, and it's a cul-de-sac that won't really go anywhere else. But is it something that you want to see? Do you want to see this road on top of the radius and the traffic study? Do you want to see your road regulations met to the line of?
Is your question to the extent, to the limit of your proposed roadway?
Yes.
Yeah, to the city line. I would personally, if you're going to go through with this project, I'd like to see complete streets throughout the entire project. But I know East Bridgewater may not hold you to that. I don't like the idea of just changing the standards halfway down the road.
I mean, I agree. I think I agree, especially where Brockton gets so little out of this subdivision. I mean, could we at least get some continuity in the design?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I could address her issue, Gigi's issue that she just raised. One of the problems, and I'm flipping back and forth between designs, is that we've mentioned this at Station 20 or Station 2, 200 feet. There's this rapid throat down.
Yeah.
And although the sidewalks do continue all the way into East Bridgewater and through East Bridgewater, we might want to, so I'm happy, I think that they've met the complete street guidelines. I would like to see, though, that the roadway paved width gradually tapers instead of making that direct abutment at 200. So from 200 to gradually taper to the city line. And then when we hit the city line, we're at the East Bridgewater pavement width.
Okay.
Is that something that the board would consider?
We'd have to, I guess we'd have to discuss it. I mean, that certainly would be an improvement. That certainly would be an improvement would be to feather, for lack of a better term, feather that transition from, what is it, from 34 to 26 feet of paving. I mean, 26 feet of paving, goodness me, that's pretty narrow, but.
Yeah, you know what?
What is East Bridgewater standards? Is East Bridgewater's minimum width of paving what is it, Gigi, now?
26.
That is the minimum in East Bridgewater?
That's their standards, for their subdivision standards.
Okay. Well, all right. I think that unless anybody else says something that's new and different, that I think the prudent thing to do would be to continue. I think we should read into the record the local councilor's letter of concern. She was not able to be here tonight. I know she would have been. She's at a budget meeting, a budget hearing that's going on at City Hall. So, and I know Pam has been waiting anxiously to read this letter into the record. I can sense it. Is that accurate, Pam?
Absolutely, yes.
Why, thank you.
This is from Councilor Castro. Because of COVID-19, Brockton City Hall has been closed to the public, preventing interested residents from reviewing the filed documents and at times from speaking with staff. I understand some abutting owners did not receive notice of this hearing in April or recently. While the documents were available for review on the city website, they were incomplete since until yesterday afternoon, the application for subdivision approval was not among the scanned and posted documents. These several deficiencies contribute to the limiting ability of the public to learn about this proposal. The agenda identifies this matter as 679 East Street. However, the documents posted are Knight's Way. This is confusing and misleading to residents. Another deficiency negatively impacting the public. The subdivision plan for your approval this evening shows 2 lots in Brockton and the rest in East Bridgewater. The planning office has represented to at least one resident that the applicant intends, at least for today, to only build the lots in East Bridgewater and not the Brockton lots. So this is a proposed subdivision in another community to be solely accessed by Brockton's East Street. The city of Brockton will have the burdens of this subdivision, increased roadway, main tents, and traffic volume, public safety concerns, etc., while the town of East Bridgewater benefits from property and other tax revenue. At the intersection of the roadway to be created for access to this East Bridgewater subdivision, the turning radius, by now, I hope you're familiar with what that is about 90 degrees and constitutes a dangerous corner for large vehicles such as school buses or fire trucks. A lawsuit may have settled saying this was acceptable, but it doesn't create a safe situation. East Street is a country road that connects it to numerous Brockton neighborhoods. I often receive calls about speeding vehicles, dumping discarded items, drug activity. Quite a few neighbors and nearby residents have contacted me with serious concerns about this subdivision. I have not heard from any who support it. Not all are computer literate or possess Zoom accounts, so I write in their behalf. Fairness must be paramount. Fairness to the residents and not the Eastern developers who have hung on to this property for 10 years. There is risk in real estate development and delay is a cost of doing real estate business. I recommend you postpone a vote on this contentious matter till an in-person meeting can be held at which residents may attend and voice concerns. This is not an original idea. Many cities and town land use boards across Massachusetts are not holding virtual hearings on land use matters, such as West Bridgewater, giving the residents who will be impacted by this the opportunity to voice their concerns to the board live and in person. In the past, the applicant applied for and was denied water and sewer permits. I understand the applicant will seek both again. Of course, any action by the planning board must have numerous conditions, including a water, sewer, and intermunicipal agreement. I am opposed to this subdivision. Susan Knight Castro, Ward 4 Counselor.
Thank you, Pam, for reading that. I appreciate it. Would you, at your convenience, would you email that letter to both Gigi and to the applicant?
Yes.
So thank you very much so that they have that. And then maybe you can address that next time. Does the board have any other comments, concerns, or anything else that they'd like to share?
Mr. Chair, it's Larry.
Yes, sir.
Just, another note, because after I read Councilor Nicastro's letter earlier today, and Pam read it again and reminded me of it. But in 2010, there was a letter that Gigi showed us. There was an intent for an agreement from the DPW or not? And I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm just curious to know, is there another application into DPW now?
For what purpose, Larry? I'm sorry.
For water usage, and it sounds like, based on some of the other comments from the other members, that this roadway is going to become a responsibility of the city and the DPW, including fire department and police department, which I'm not totally in favor of, to be honest with you.
Yes. Well, it's kind of a catch-22 because, as Chief Williams has indicated, East Bridgewater, it's a catch-22. East Bridgewater will not entertain this subdivision unless the city of Brockton portion has been approved and made public. They won't, in other words, they won't extend a roadway into East Bridgewater that's on something that's not a public way. And then once it becomes a public way, that portion of a public way that's in Brockton, let's face it, it becomes Brockton DPW responsibility. So if it's a Brockton roadway, Brockton paving, Brockton sidewalks, Brockton water main, Brockton hydrants, it's a Brockton responsibility, and we get no revenue. So unless they, I don't know, can be some legal mechanism that the homeowners association, if there's still going to be one. Gigi, do you know, is the portion of this subdivision in East Bridgewater, is that going to remain private? Or are you going to ask for the city of East Bridgewater to accept your roadway as a public way?
Our plan is to ask for it to be accepted, but as you know, no road is accepted really until it's built, and as built is.
Oh, no, I understand that. Yeah, no, but you could still.
Our intention is what I would have to say.
To be a public way?
Mm-hmm.
And you could still, I mean, I don't know the legal mechanics of it, but I think you could still create a fund from your homeowners association that would direct money into the Brockton General Fund for maintenance of the Brockton portion of the roadway, I guess. Anything could be done with an agreement, but these are all, I'm sorry?
I said yes, and also another thing I would like to point out about the water. So when Brockton provides water to these houses, and it's not going to be for free. They're going to pay for the water, just like any other Brockton resident that pays for water.
Let's see, how did Larry? Yeah, I forget exactly that. I tried to tie in a couple of properties in East Bridgewater one time. I forget the mechanics of that. I'd have to revisit to see how that accounting is set up. That account is set up. Is it your projection that each one of those residences would have a City of Brockton water account?
Yes, they will have to.
Yeah, I don't know the legal mechanics of it, but yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Technically, they would have to pay East Bridgewater, and then East Bridgewater pays Brockton.
That's what I think.
We have
Brockton charges a turning fee.
And
right?
Brockton charges a fee to East Bridgewater to do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's the way to. So the account, Brockton has the account with the municipality, not with the homeowner.
Correct. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so it can be done. Well, I would say that unless there's something pertinent to tonight's hearing that I think we've heard a lot. I know for myself, I'm going to, where Pam has posted all of this information, I'm going to spend a little bit more time between now and the next appearance of the applicant to learn more about this. Please keep in mind that even though this was remanded by the court, there is more than one reference in there through the judge saying that we have not lost all control of this. This isn't something that's forced on us. So be clear on what you're reading there from the court. It's saying that there are some guidelines there for design, but that we still have say as to what's going on there. So please read that letter a couple of times so that you're clear with that. In any case, I think that unless somebody else has something of a pertinent nature to add, I would entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
We need her to continue to a date certain, so all those that are listening know. So Gigi, I don't know whether you want to go to the August meeting?
Yes, we would like to go to the August meeting.
Okay, which will be August 4th.
Okay.
And just so we can get some sort of an idea, and it's, you're free to do as you wish. So based on what you heard tonight, Gigi, are there some particular issues that you think that you will be able to respond to at the August meeting?
We will respond to the radius issue in regards to both regular cars and the fire truck.
Yep.
And
Can you,
bills.
you must have the auto turn software, right?
Yes.
So you can show, you first of all have to, you can call the, imagine, Mr. Williams, can she call to get the exact rate, the exact, what do you call the,
Yes,
wheelbase.
we'll get it to her.
I'm sorry?
We'll get it to her, no problem.
Wonderful. So you'll do an auto turn, based on the paving radiuses that you're showing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm not suggesting, I'm just asking, would you be doing something? Can you get some sort of a traffic response?
Traffic, yes, we will get like a minor study for like the increased like amount of
Yeah, I mean,
trips
just to
per
see,
day.
I mean, I'd like to have somebody on a professional level respond to, I don't know that, you know, that 7 dwellings is going to be a deal breaker there, but,
Mhm.
you know, but the issue's been raised. Craig, was there 1 or 2 other issues that you thought you'd like to, or Larry, or any of you that you thought you might want to have addressed for the next meeting?
As of right now, no, I still have a major issue with the road width and changing of standards. But, yeah.
Quite frankly, I do too. I see it as, I don't, anyway.
We'll
Okay,
address
so
that based on the review from this meeting.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Okay, so I did, Craig, did you make a motion to continue?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, sir. Did we get a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that? Reggie, thank
Second,
you.
Reggie, yep.
Okay, roll call vote. The motion was made to continue and then seconded. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan,
Yes.
thank you. So voted.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Gigi.
Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see, now your last agenda, well, that was the last, I mean, updates from board members. Are there any?
Now, we will be meeting as the zoning board of appeals for 2 meetings in July. Hopefully catch up on some backlog. Other than that, there's nothing else.
I'm just curious, since you've mentioned it, what are your agendas like at the zoning board for those 2 meetings? Are they?
Well, we haven't had full boards the last couple meetings because other members weren't able to make it. So we've had some things continue, and we could have 8, 11 item agendas. So these could be some long meetings.
Well. Well.
You're wondering if you're going to come as a substitute?
What?
You're wondering if you want to fill in?
My free time. I've got parking authority tomorrow night.
Gentlemen, you have a scheduled meeting July 7th. We scheduled that meeting because we thought maybe that some of these items would be pushed to that meeting and they might need some
But they
tightening
don't.
up. However, the only thing that's on that agenda right now is the return to the zoning board. So I will contact her and see if she's truly ready to go.
I mean, I'd like to, if we can avoid it, I'd like to not to hold a public hearing for just one agenda, obviously.
Correct. And she asked specifically not to be on this agenda. And
Okay.
I thought she was pulling her application and then she emailed me back and said, oh no, we'll go to July. So I will email her again and tell her she's the only agenda item and if she could possibly postpone to August.
Pam?
Greatly appreciated.
And Pam, I'll let you know now, I'm actually going to attempt to go to the summer house in Maine. So we leave on the 7th, so I wouldn't be around if we do have a meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Reggie's summer house in Maine also.
I'm just gonna say that.
Come on
I'm
up.
following him.
Okay, like I said, I thought that more of these would go to the July date, and they just skipped right over.
Yeah. Well,
And you just
We were
requested.
trying to
the
be
school?
accommodating and having a July meeting, because we,
Right.
I know.
you've done a really good job cleaning up the backlog, so.
Well, I think we all have. It's a team effort. I think we've done a great job. The Zoom thing, thanks to Pam and to Rob, I mean, my personal opinion is I think it worked very well. It worked. Last week's meeting went along well. We had those two focused items, but tonight we got a lot cleared up, so that was good.
We do have some new things that have come in. And although technically, we do not need to schedule things until the state of emergency is lifted. And after that, we have 45 days. I'm going to schedule them because they did come in, and now that the backlog is pretty much taken care of, we can move on to some of the newer things.
And just so you can let Frank know that I'll have a different shirt, because I changed out of a t-shirt into this shirt, and this is what I had at the office. So
Is that your bowling shirt?
no, it's a golf shirt, but there was a comment earlier. You missed it.
Are you sure, Craig? I saw the comment. I have a couple.
The Brockton boxer shirt. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think.
Rob saw me at lunch today. I was wearing a t-shirt, so I had to change my shirt to come onto the meeting.
Nice.
That's it.
Why is he? He's muted himself.
Biden, yeah. Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
I'm unmuted.
All right, so motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Bob Pelagi, yes. Craig Pina,
Yes.
Reggie Thomas,
Yes.
Larry Hassan.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, one and all. Appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
Have a great
everyone.
night.
Thank you all. Thank you, ladies
Night.
and gentlemen.
Have
Thanks,
a-
guys. Nice seeing you.
Thank you.